Washington, D.C., people screaming Nazi, fascist, controlling. You've got other people screaming, yeah, it needs to be happening. The circus continues.
Yeah.
We lose the reasonable, common sense people in the middle.
Absolutely. When a statement is made like the crime rate is higher in Washington, D.C. than it is in Mexico City and Bogotá, Colombia, and we do a fact check, it's true.
We've normalized a very high level of violent crime.
Yes.
And if it comes down a little bit, we say, yeah, but it needs to come down radically.
If you believe this policy is racially driven, that is based on an assumption that the primary perpetrators of the crime are black.
Which in itself is a racist.
Exactly.
Premise, isn't it?
I don't believe blacks are more criminal than anyone else in society. I'm focused on crime. Defunding the police has not been successful. In many of the communities where we saw that as the driving crime, those communities now are asking for resources to address violence.
The facts are, crime is out of control. We've normalized violence. We need to do something about it. The passionate exhortation is, get rid of your ideological lenses, pursue the truth, and do it with love.
Hey, I'm Khalil Osiris coming to you live from Florida, United States of America, and it's great to be here today, brother, with you.
Fantastic, Khalil. Always fantastic to be with you. Craig Wilkinson, Johannesburg, South Africa. Across continents, across seas. But the truth is the truth, and we're all about let's be honest, and it's wonderful to have that kind of conversation.
It's great, brother. And we've got some stuff today to talk about that I think is going to be electrifying.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna let me kick off with this little video here. It's hilarious.
Mr. Trump.
Yes,
Are you Batman?
I am Batman.
CNN did the exact same thing. CNN decided to call President Trump Batman.
What America's talking about. Donald Trump makes himself Batman, and the nation's capital is Gotham City. The President of the United States has declared himself crime fighter in chief.
Here's the bat signal for big balls. This is a famous one. You're really trying to make Donald Trump look like Batman.
I mean, it's all the news, right? I mean, Washington, D.C., I mean, you've got people screaming Nazi, fascist, controlling. You've got other people screaming, yeah, it needs to be happened. I mean, it's just the circus continues, doesn't it? With people screaming from the left and the right, and and we lose the reasonable, sensible, common sense people in the middle.
Absolutely, brother. First of all, the issue here is crime. Let's say there are multiple facets of this that we could focus on, but let's just take the one that's most obvious and I think has the most common ground in terms of something we all agree we don't want. No community wants to be crime-ridden. Put politics aside just for a second. If people are able to do that, just put them aside for a second. No one wants crime. The crime rates in D.C., America's capital, have been intolerable for years. This is just a common conversation. Mm-hmm. You can talk to people all over the country, and there's an awareness that the crime rate has been unacceptably high, in fact, intolerable. And so when a statement is made like the crime rate is higher in Washington, D.C. than it is in Mexico City and Bogotá, Colombia, and we do a fact check, it's true. That's not hyperbole, it's true. Now,
there's no ideology there, there's no politics, there's no opinion.
Listen,
facts are facts. Opinion doesn't care about facts, does it? Facts don't care about feelings.
And I just think that if you stick with the issue of crime and you ask each person, are you in support? Are you in favor of doing everything that we can to reduce crime in our communities to make them safer for every citizen? I think most of us say yes. The majority of people say yes. Where we differ,
Well, anyone who doesn't say yes to that would be
exactly, and I think
slightly cuckoo. I mean,
that's why I start at that kind of first principle. I start at that foundation, Craig, because if we can agree to start there, then it's easier to understand where our disagreements are coming from.
Right.
Because now we're going to ask people to tell us how we are going to accomplish that. Because it's not just that we want lower.
Yeah, which is the next
exactly.
phase,
The next step is
That's
how
the next
do we
phase.
accomplish it? How do we ensure that our communities are safer?
Right.
How do we do that? And this is a debate about how that is done. Not
There's no debate about whether or not it needs to be done. The debate is how it needs to be. Let me just show a quick clip which confirms what you're saying there. And I think it's important to do that, just to establish the facts.
I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. But they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of no cash bail. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids because I can't arrest them. I can't prosecute them. They go to family court and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
These are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the D.C. streets this weekend. They were rough and tough, but we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. They're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy. He has killed people numerous times. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be rehabbed. It's not going to be rehabbed.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think the whole issue of not going to be rehabbed, I know you and I have perhaps a slightly different view to what Trump is talking about. You know, we do believe that everyone should be given a chance to be rehabbed. However, we also firmly of the belief that we need to keep our cities safe and our streets safe, and we need to get rid of people from the streets who will likely kill people.
Yes.
I mean that's a given.
And I think that point, Craig, is where we are really in need of clarity. The idea that you are going to federalize the police in Washington, D.C. in such a way that there's going to be a concerted effort to reduce crime, deploying the military, the National Guard, any way you want to talk about that. For me, if I'm living in a community where I've been fighting for the last decade to get crime down, to reduce crime, to stop the criminal behavior in my community and across my city, the first thing that I'm going to do is look for how can this benefit the work that I've been doing to stop crime. I don't want to. I'm not going to start this conversation with, we don't want these people helping us. We need more resources in our cities to combat violent crime and other crime. It's not just a violent crime, but we do need it specifically for violent crime. Here's what happened. In 2023, we saw the highest spike of homicides in the last 20 years or so in DC, 2023. And since then...
I think you shared the stats there. Was it 44 per 100,000?
Yeah.
That's an
Right.
insanity. In South Africa, we have one of the highest murder rates in the world, and our national average is, I think, 37 per 100. So
Yes.
you're saying DC was worse
DC.
than us,
Right. And then the argument is that the following year, 2024, that it started to decline. And then in 2025, we've seen other signs of it declining. But we're talking about where we're still at we're talking about 200 murders a year. And we're still that's double what it was a decade ago. It was under a decade ago, it was under 100.
So the base that we're working from, the base you're working from is unacceptably
Exactly.
high. So even an improvement is in other words, we've normalized a very high level of violent crime.
Yes.
And if it comes down a little bit, we say yay, but it needs to come down radically to get back to what could be acceptable, or not acceptable, but
here's my thing. We're going to have massive resources at the disposal of the city now, Washington, D.C. And there should be a significant reduction in crime, violent crime, specifically homicide, given that that's the goal, that's the target here. We should be able to see it.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, that one of the things that's not talked about in this conversation very much, the broader conversation, is that 2023 and the spike that we saw in homicides cannot be looked at in isolation. We have to look at the defunding the police policies that preceded. And I understand the history that gave rise to this ideal of defunding the police. I was there documenting the murders. I've done all of that on that side of the fence. So I'm not saying this to argue on any side in particular, other than to say what I recognize is that defunding the police has not been successful. In many of the communities where we saw that as the driving cry, those communities now are asking for resources to address violence in their own communities. Right. And the other side of this is we even have people talking about, well, all the criminals are going to do is wait out the National Guard and wait out the federalized police. And I'm thinking to myself, a criminal is you are actually pandering to the assumption that a criminal is going to wait out law enforcement. This is insane. I mean, it really is insane that we would suggest that all the criminals are so much in control and have they're so savvy that we cannot control crime. We cannot stop crime in our communities. I just don't accept that. And just this last part.
No, it's a crazy. Craig, I mean, it's almost like saying. It's like saying let's give up. It's going to happen anyway. Let's give up. Let's not try. We just got to accept what will happen.
And Craig, the elephant in the room, though, brother, the elephant in the room for many communities is that there is this conversation that all of this is not just politically motivated, but racially driven. So, and I want to actually address that directly in our conversation and say this. If you believe that this policy is racially driven, that is based on an assumption that the primary perpetrators of the crime are black.
Yeah.
And
which in itself is a racist.
Exactly.
Premise, isn't it?
I don't believe blacks are more criminal than anyone else in society. So if we create laws and if we implement interventions to stop crime, I'm focused on crime. It doesn't matter that person's race.
If we assume
it doesn't
racist,
matter.
Then it doesn't. Well, I mean, to that note, there's another clip I want to play here, and lovely to get your thoughts on it because it's quite astonishing. Actually, it's people protesting about this, and it's just quite uncanny. Some of the perceptions that people have.
DC, united, we'll never be defeated. This is not about crime. public safety. This is about power.
When a fascist tells you who they are, believe them. Locking up people you don't like or don't want to see is textbook authoritarianism. Trump is testing opinion by focusing on groups that he believes to have little public sympathy, like folks who live outside. Right now, they are coming for homeless folks, trans folks, and migrants. But rest assured, soon they will come for everyone who is not a white, straight, cis, wealthy Christian man.
We live in a time where our neighbors are disappearing and are going to state-sanctioned concentration camps like Alligator Alcatraz. And all we came here for when we migrated was safety. Safety is investing in our communities, not our surveillance. Safety is ICE out of our neighborhoods, our schools, our libraries, our construction sites, and our communities. Safety is ICE out of DC.
Well, brother, this is.
Oh gosh, I mean, Khalil, the misinformation, the misconception there. I mean, you're
Wow.
a Black American guy.
Yes.
I mean, Trump's coming after you, brother. I mean, you better get back here to South Africa before it's too late. I mean, where does that come from? You know, it's I mean, the last woman is talking about. Safety, we're all about safety. I mean, isn't that really what this is all about? It's about safety. It's about legality.
Of course.
I mean, I guarantee you that woman holding her child there was probably a legal immigrant. She's probably got all the rights that you have in America,
Yes.
all the rights that any other American citizen has because she came to the country legally
Yes.
and she's an American and she has absolutely every single right that you do. I mean, there's
Yes.
she doesn't have to fear ICE because ICE is not after her, even though she
No.
is an immigrant.
Yes.
It really is quite deranged, isn't it? That, I mean, the Jewish guy saying, he's coming after the homeless and that. I mean, is Trump going after trans people? Trans people have exactly the same rights as you do. I mean, there's no
as a citizen.
It's a bizarre. Yeah, they're citizens.
It's brother. Listen. We have. First of all, we are in the midst of the kind of social upheaval that we haven't seen in decades. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this in many, many, many years. So, for a lot of people, these are terrifying times because of the changes and how rapidly things are happening all around us. And the more that the change kind of escalates and touches more people directly, what we find is people are clinging to the most ridiculous ideas of, of tribalism and divisions. Everywhere we look, we hear people divided.
Yeah.
We see people divided. And they're divided about things, brother, that you would think we should have more common ground on than differences. But I'm glad to see it. I welcome it, Craig. I welcome this kind of discourse because until we have it, we're not going to be able to change anything.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Khalil, you and I are activists. We're
Yes.
activists against racism, against inequality, against poverty,
Yes.
against abuse. You and I have traveled into very poor, sometimes dangerous communities, gone to
Yes.
schools, crossing all cultural, racial barriers, preaching love, reconciliation, truth.
Yes.
I mean, your heart and my heart is exactly for equality, fairness, love. I mean, that's our passion. That's what we
Respect.
stand for.
Yes.
I mean, respect,
Integrity.
dignity, humanity,
Yes.
human first. And what we're seeing now is not that. It's an ideological, distortion of
Yes.
something that's not what we fought for. I mean, we as you know, I live in South Africa. You've spent a lot of time in South Africa. We've worked together, shoulder
Yes.
to shoulder in communities in South Africa, and we fought against apartheid and racism. And what's so interesting is we are further down the line now in the world towards equality in terms of racial equality, in terms of gender
Yes.
equality, in terms of
Yes.
gay rights, in terms of we're further down we've ever been, and yet the noise about that stuff has never been louder. People saying, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Well, that is the whole point. We're faced now with a different kind of conversation because we have a different reality emerging that no one can quite put their finger on. Like, we don't really know what we're becoming as a society. We talk about these grand principles like democracy and communism and equal rights and political representation. I think that we're at a phase globally even where people are beginning to really question, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for our society in the context of my role in it? Because we now can hear voices we never heard before. We can hear a small person that we would never have known in the middle of nowhere can communicate with us because of our technology. So we know a lot more, but we're not we're not going to be able to get around our inhumanity. We're not going to be able to duck that. We're going to have to face that squarely.
Exactly. The fact that inherent in every man, woman, and child is the capacity for great evil and great good.
Yes.
It's in all of us. It's not in a particular tribe or group more than others.
Yes.
We all have that. And history proves that, and history shows that. But there's such an element of irrationality that's crept into the dialogue, isn't there? And for me, there's actually an element of self-hatred. If you look at the values and the principles that made America great, that made a lot of Western first world countries great, those values are Judeo-Christian values. They're values of love, respect, excellence, pursuing greatness, upward mobility. I mean, these are principles that have made America great. That's what the founding fathers came to. All men are created equal under God and inalienable rights. I mean, these are beautiful principles, and that's what made. But it's almost as though we're rejecting those principles, and we're saying, those are not working for us. They're not right. And it's so interesting to try and discern what is causing that. A guilt, a self-hatred, a boredom, a lack of purpose. Things are too good, I mean, what we don't do with immigrants is we don't condemn the countries from which they came. They're fleeing. You don't get Americans fleeing to Cambodia and fleeing to some of these, Iran. You don't. Why not? Why? Because is it better there? It's obviously not. They're fleeing from there into places like America because of the liberty and the freedom that America offers. And they're fleeing from a dictatorial environment in which they're oppressed and suppressed. Why are we not bringing pressure on those nations as opposed to saying that America's wrong, we're bad, it's the dialogue is irrational. It's full of self-hatred. And the other point, Khalil, which we need to really unpack is, and I heard this recently, a woman talking about how she's a Democrat, how she discovered that her boyfriend voted Republican and she had to break up with him. There was no way she could live with it. I mean, there used to be a time when families could gather around a meal, Republicans and Democrats, and respect each other and have a proper conversation.
Of course.
And respect each other. We seem to have lost that ability. Hey,
and
if you
that
don't agree,
really is
you're
it.
wrong, you're bad, you're evil, and I got to break up with you. I mean, hey?
That's the insanity of this, brother, that people would actually become so identified with their thinking about an issue, their ideology, that they would miss our shared humanity.
Right.
It goes back to our kind of like our first principles. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about how do we live as human beings together in a way that builds on our humanity, our shared humanity, not destroys and divides it. I mean, and I think there's a part of there's a part of all of this that has to be examined in that context through that lens.
Very much so.
I understand
so.
The Republican, the Democrat. I understand all of the ideological factors that people want to put first. And that's what we're talking about. They're putting that first. Yeah. I just like to take a step
even above
back.
facts and above truth.
Even above all of that. They're putting the ideology of the political view first. And all I'm saying is just take a step back for a second.
Yeah.
Let's just breathe. Yeah. Let's look at this. Yes, it's tense. It's chaotic. A lot of things are happening that we've never seen. I get it. But I'm not going to allow that to destroy my joy. Yeah. I'm not going to allow that to make me lose sight of my shared humanity with the person who has a view the opposite of my own.
Right.
I am less concerned with our ideological differences than I am about our shared humanity.
Fantastic. We have more in common than we have different.
We have to have some first principles, brother. We have to have some foundational point to start from to have a conversation that allows us to then examine why these differences have become so big.
Well, it's pure tribalism, isn't it, Khalil?
Yes.
You know, it's primitive tribalism where my tribe's right, your tribe is wrong, you're my enemy. Even if you say something true, even if you do something good, I'm not going to acknowledge it because you're not part of my tribe.
That's
and if my
the insanity
tribe does something
of it.
bad, I'm never going to acknowledge it because it's my tribe and it's right. And I think, great men and great women are able to see the truth wherever the truth may be found. They're able to call out the bad wherever the bad may be found. And you know, in our shared humanity, we all of us are a combination of good and bad. We miss the boat,
brother.
and we hit the lights out. You know, we do both. And we need to walk together as one humanity and help each other, not by canceling each other, writing each other off, calling each other names and by dialoguing with respect and love. How do we get back to that, man?
Let me give you one example. I want to use prison as an example. So during my time in prison, the conversations that I heard most from other men was consistently about how broken the system is. And while those conversations were the dominant conversations, the system is broken, I shouldn't be here, I'm innocent of the actual thing that they charged me of, all kinds of technical thinking and excuses. But the thing that was so really just troubling to me was how the vast majority of violence being committed in the prison was one prisoner against another, or groups of prisoners against other groups of prisoners. The most violent individuals in the prison were individuals whose violence was targeted at other prisoners. Now, the administration could have stopped that violence to a very great extent by implementing certain kinds of rules and practices and policies within the prison system that would have significantly reduced the violence. There are guys who would have fought that tooth and nail to say, no, we don't want that. We don't want anything that's going to actually stop the violence. We want to have the right to continue to stab each other, rape each other, extort each other, beat each other, manipulate each other. So my thinking was this. I would say to guys, here's how I'm going to operate in the prison system. Number one, we don't break the rules. And guys would be so outraged at me when I would say that. They say, oh, Cyrus, here you were one of the biggest rule breakers of all. Now you're in prison. You're saying don't break the rules anymore. You want to change on us. I said, yeah, we don't break the rules. And I said, let me tell you why. The rules are predicated on the assumption that we will act like savages. Here's what the rules say. Don't rape anyone. Don't murder anyone.
You shouldn't need a
Don't
rule that says
extort
that.
anyone. Like, honestly, do we need to be told those kinds of things about our own humanity? The assumption is that we are going to treat each other and behave as savages. So we're not going to break the rules because we're dignified human beings. And I'm saying now, flip that back into the community. The individuals who are committing crimes in our communities, there needs to be something that happens that brings a level of clarity that this is unacceptable.
Consequence.
Now, if there have to be consequences, obviously. But I'm also saying that we cannot be afraid to call out the problem as it exists in our communities for fear of the ideal of racism. If I'm Black living in a Black community, and the majority of people committing crime in my community and terrorizing our community is Black, why is it a problem if I say that? It shouldn't be a problem if I say that. And any more than it should be a problem if a white person looks at the situation and says, wow, don't you feel that's unacceptable? Absolutely, I feel it's unacceptable. Well, would you like to see it changed and stopped? Absolutely, I'd like to see it changed and stopped. I'm not supporting the criminal over law enforcement.
No.
And law enforcement has come out on the side of let's do something different here in this community in DC. And I know that this is going to create for a lot of people, they feel that this is just above everything else, simply political, simply about Black people, and simply about making an attack against Black people. I've read it in so many different media communicated messages and all that nonsense. And I'm just going to say this. I take the position that Blacks are not disproportionately criminal. I take the position that Blacks want safe communities. I take further the position that Blacks favor law enforcement doing its job.
Yeah.
So I am not concerned with someone who says the criminals are just going to outlast law enforcement. Because when communities come together, communities work with law enforcement when communities work well. So I'm pushing for communities that work well. I'm pushing for driving for us doing those things that make us more safe, stronger certainly, and more confident that we can be in control of our communities in ways that help and heal everyone, not just some of us, but all of us.
Khalil, it really is a no-brainer, isn't it? The way you put it there. And as we keep saying, the tendency towards criminality or evil or bad or good is equally distributed in all human beings. It's not a Black thing. It's not a white thing. It's not a Hispanic thing. It's in us. We all have the potential to be evil and to be bad. Obviously, environment plays a role. And where you have an environment where there's a lot of poverty, a lot of broken families, that's going to tend to breed more criminality because of brokenness. But it's not the tendency of the individual for evil. It's the brokenness of the situation that causes him to respond in a wounded fashion. And, Stephen Covey said the most profound thing, the author Stephen Covey, he said, to the extent that a society has values, law is not necessary. And that's what you were saying about the prison scenario. If you have a basic value that says, I'm not going to rape anyone, you don't need a law that says don't rape because you're just not going to do it. But you know what he goes on to say? He says, to the extent that a society doesn't have values, law is unenforceable. And that's quite a profound thing. Because if you
that is very profound.
I mean, so the whole issue is, are we raising boys and girls, men and women who have values, who respect each other, who have basic humanity, who walk with love and dignity, who respect elders, who respect everyone else no matter how different they look? If we do that, we don't need laws. If we don't do that, laws become virtually unenforceable. And I think that's, we're teetering on the edge of that, aren't we?
That is the situation that we now find ourselves grappling with.
Yeah.
It's
We are the
some
values.
aspect of, yes, we are, when we say we don't have the values necessary for law enforcement to work, what we're saying is our shared values have become so fractured
Yeah.
that we cannot expect to have law enforcement respected and effective because of the brokenness, the shattered nature of our collective values. And that is the part why this is tying into so many other elements for people, like immigration and all kinds of other things that are in the back, that are the backdrop of this conversation. And again, you know, there's a lot of layers to this, and we acknowledge that, and make no excuses for focusing on the areas that we choose, which is how do we talk about this in the context of our shared humanity?
Yes.
Not how do we talk about it as a Republican or a Democrat.
No, 100%.
So that's very important for our audience to understand, because our narrative will continue to be one that questions how can we better address this based on our shared humanity. And we're asking them to, absolutely, brother.
Based on it and for it, for everybody, not just for some, for absolutely everybody. We have to move towards that, you know.
And that's where the real work is. That's where the heavy lifting is, because until we can get to a point where we are genuinely able to embrace others whose views are the opposite of our own, we're never going to be able to grow respectfully, with integrity.
Yeah.
It is just,
Khalil,
I mean, that's part of it.
Look, and I think if you really roll this back, you know, at the moment we're dealing symptomatically with some very bad symptoms, and one needs to do that. You know, if the weeds are growing, you need to pull the weeds out, full stop. But then what you need to do is look at the soil. You know, what is in the soil that's creating the weeds? What is it in our society that's creating criminality? I mean, one of the things is was just completely open borders, which is open to anyone who wants to come in. But the other thing is the breakdown of the family unit. It's the breakdown of the schooling system. It's a breakdown of the values that we're teaching kids. We're not. It's how we're parenting. It's, are we rewarding single parent families even? You know, to the extent of that kind of thing. You know, what are we doing with fathers? You know, do we honor and respect and do we do our absolute best to make sure that every home has a father in it? Are we rewarding true and authentic humanity, and particularly masculinity and family? Because we've demonized masculinity, we've demonized men, we've driven men out of the home in many, many ways. And you know, historically and internationally, no matter what research you look at, the basic fundamental unit of a healthy society is an intact, loving family. You know, and that's fallen apart as well. So one needs to look at, you know, I mean, I think it's crucial that you got to cut the weeds out. So where the criminals are just flourishing and thriving, you got to take action to come in. And I think that's what's happening in DC now. And I think we then need to look beyond that to say, you know, why is this criminality emerging? What are the driving forces of it, and how can we begin to prevent that? A lot of the work we do here in South Africa is with gender-based violence. Most work is around gender-based violence. Either creates awareness of it, which is important, but it's not going to fix it, or helps victims. And what we're saying is we don't want victims. And it's not enough to create awareness. You got to say, well, what is the root cause of this? Let's deal with that. And, you know, for me, the root cause often is brokenness and a lack of values, which leads to a perpetuation of abuse, violence, alcohol addiction, all these different kinds of things. And so there needs to be a really serious look at the society we're in and what we're doing to grow healthy men and women.
And Craig, here's the other, like, the foundation that you have just laid for this conversation and for the kind of intervention that we need. When we look at that, there's an element of the entire conversation that must be central to our solution. And it is, how do we encourage greater personal accountability?
Yeah.
How do we talk with people in a way that says we have the power to change our circumstances? We have that power, and we do not need permission to use that power for good with every human being we touch, in every relationship we have, with every conversation we enter into. We have an authentic power that can be used for good. Now, I am convinced that that power, when used for good, is greater than any circumstances that we could ever face, that gives us a power to change, to transform, and to create better circumstances for ourselves. I believe that power exists in us. And so to that extent, all of us, brother, it is liberally given to all of us. So
it's one of God's greatest gift to us, the power
to
of
each
free
of us.
choice, the power of agency. You know, we all pick it, we all choose it.
With
and, Khalil,
accountability.
One of the greatest enemies of personal accountability is blame, isn't it? It's blame. I blame the government. I blame the system. I blame this.
Blame
I blame that.
and victimhood. Blame and victimhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Because with blame goes victimhood.
Things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm simply saying that people have enough power in our communities to change our communities. I don't believe criminals are the majority in any community.
No,
they're not the majority.
No.
So given that they're the minority, those of us who are in the majority have enough power, if we are to use it intentionally, to stop the crime that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But if we don't use our power for that, brother, what are we saying?
And you know where it starts, Khalil? It's be a great father, be a great husband, be a good man.
Yes.
Never misuse your words or your power or your, love your wife, nurture her, be faithful and loyal to her. Love your kids, be present for them, be a good neighbor, a good citizen, a good employee, a
all
good leader.
things you can do without anybody's permission, brother. You don't need anyone's permission to do any of those things.
No. And you don't need any power. You've got the power. No one needs to give it to you.
You've got the power. You don't need to be empowered to be that.
No.
Now, there's people who are going to say, well, if you never learned it because you've never had any positive role models or any of those things, by the time you reach consciousness to say, I never had it, you now have an awareness sufficient for the task of doing the work. But you can't tell me at 50 years old, you're a guy in prison telling me the reason you're in prison is because you never had a role model and a father figure. And I say, well, how many times have you been to prison? You say 5. I said, well, wait a minute. And how many children do you have? 10. Well, wait a minute. You got 10 children. You've been to prison 5 times. And you're telling me the reason you were there is because you didn't have a father? No, that's unacceptable at 50 years old.
Yeah. Okay. There's no excuse.
There's no excuse. And I'm saying, take responsibility. At some point you
could have decided, look, I mean, the reality is we have access now to countless bad role models, but count as good role models, Yes. I mean, you can tune into the right podcast. You can read the right books. You can hang out with the right people.
Yes.
You can make the right calls and get in the right scenarios. And that eliminates blame. I mean, look, let's be honest. And you and I come from this very compassionate, wanting to fix and heal background. Let's be honest. Some people have it much harder than others. You're born in an abusive. I mean, there are reasons, but ultimately, there comes a phase in life. The decision is yours, man. Choose the right way. Look for the right.
It's called
adulthood.
Models, read
the right material.
It's called adulthood. It's called adulthood, brother. It's a simple term with a complex meaning. It's adulthood. It's when you reach age of maturity. And maturity, I'm simply talking about the idea that you now recognize that whatever's happened to you, you cannot change that. Whatever it is, you cannot change it.
You can't.
And if you've been wounded, That's right. It's history. And if you've been wounded, the best thing you can do is to recognize you have the power not to carry that wound forward into your future in a way that makes you suffer.
Absolutely. You no longer need to be a victim to your past.
You no longer know. You have a consciousness.
And you may need help. You may need counseling. You may need medication.
All
whatever.
of that. Absolutely.
But it's there. It's available. And I think that's our passion too, Khalil. The passion for being mentors. I mean, both you and I, in different ways, have screwed up. We've got past. We've got mistakes we've made. I mean, but we're now at a point where we can mentor and we can teach and we can lead. And the more men step up as mentors, and the more men step up and say, no matter what happened to me in the past, I'm going to be a great father. No matter if I was cheated on, no matter, I'm going to be a good husband. I'm going to be committed. If we can just do that, man, you're right. We'll change society. We'll turn it around.
We will change it. We will change it. It's like I tell guys, every time I'm in prison, I tell guys, if you want to stop what's happening in the prisons, you really want to stop it. Stop crime. Stop committing crime. You personally, your most important step, your most important first step is for you to stop committing crimes. And I'm saying, and being violent and abusive in your relationships, which is another level of self-perpetuating criminal behavior.
Break the cycle. Break the cycle.
Yes.
Each person. Going back to that blame thing. We so often say this. Oh, Khalil, you make me mad. I mean, what am I saying? I'm saying, Khalil, you have the power to control my emotions. I'm out of control, brother. You're the puppet master. I'm the puppet.
Yeah.
I mean, what a ludicrous thing to say. You can do something that might make me feel, but I choose how to respond to that.
Absolutely.
And that's the power we have. Huh?
In every situation, though, we have the power to look at that situation and say, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. Look, and this is the whole thing, brother. The conversations that we're having these conversations as people who are totally open and candid, completely candid about our own failures, our own challenges. I know this about prison because I was there. I was there. I recognized being there that, wait a minute, I know more about how broken the system is than I do about how to fix my own behavior. I mean, that was backwards. It didn't make sense to me. Here I am sitting in prison saying that I'm a victim, but I know everything broken about the system and nothing about how to make better choices. That's insane, brother.
That's blame. You're giving your power away.
I gave all of my power away. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the same with communities. Communities do the same. In communities. We're sitting in a community saying, without recognizing just how powerful we really are. Brother, it was like when I would go to South Africa, I would always meet individuals who would look at me and just assume I'm rich. They would assume, in the same way that someone in America looks at rich people, if you're just a common poor person and you say, oh, they're rich, Jeff Bezos is rich and Bill Gates, they're rich. Okay, well, in South Africa, for the first time in my life, I encountered people who looked at me like I was just rich beyond anything they could comprehend. And
is that because of your American accent or what?
American, just being American. I think more than anything, just being an American, there was this assumption that was the case. And I look at that and I think to myself, brother, we're seen as more powerful than we see ourselves oftentimes. Very often, others see us as more powerful than we see ourselves. And I'm saying that there is some basis for that. And specifically in communities where we are plagued with crime, if we ever begin to see that we are more powerful than the criminals, if we ever begin to look at ourselves and say we are the solution, then we will welcome the help of anyone who is saying that they support our growth. They support our development. They support us in this way.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm coming from on every situation where our shared humanity finds collective action possible, we should engage in it.
100%. And I think the key there, Khalil, and I know you and I passionately share this, is a passionate desire for the truth. What is the truth? What
That's
is
right,
the
brother.
truth, and what's going to further us as human beings? And I mean, if we go back to the DC situation, you know, if you look, cutting out any politics, cutting out any opinion, just look, what are the facts? The facts are crime is out of control. We've normalized violence.
Yes.
The next step, the fact is we need to do something about it. What do we do about it? You know, and for you and I think for all of our listeners, man, just the passionate exhortation is,
Yes.
get rid of your lenses, your ideological lenses, and pursue the truth and do it with love. The truth is finding the facts, even if they hurt, even though they disagree with your tribe.
Wow.
And love is saying, you know what, okay, once we've got the facts, what can we do that's going to better us as human beings, all of us as human beings? I mean, isn't that the premise of what we're all about? Let's be honest.
Totally.
Let's be honest.
Brother,
Yeah.
that is the those are the first principles. You've articulated our first principles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's our shared humanity.
It's our shared humanity. Well, brother, I mean, love you. Appreciate
brother.
you.
This
Is always so good to have this conversation, and I look forward to many, many more.
Absolutely, brother.
The world's giving us many issues to discuss, and we're going to discuss it with joy.
With joy, and we're going to make sure that at least someone understands that healing is possible.
Absolutely.
Healing is always possible. So no matter how fractured or wounded, the past is, come on.
Past does not equal the future. Does not.
No.
Unless we give up our power, then it does.
That's right.
Yeah. Amen.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.